WPIAL podcast on the Trib Live High School Sports Network, here to honor our WPIAL Team of the Week, and we do so thanks in part to our good friends at Edgar Snyder and Associates since 1982. They have been fighting the fight for you. Check them out, edgarsnyder.com. The old saying, if you're going to beat the champs, you got to knock out the champs. The champs have not been knocked out, at least in boys class 3A. Our WPIAL Basketball Team of the Week, the South Allegheny Gladiators, the reigning champs in 3A, and they have been making some noise, especially in this past round, the quarterfinals. Tony DiCenzo, their outstanding head coach, is kind enough to join us. Before we start talking that, we were just talking before we got started, you have two young kids, 3 years, 9 months. It's tough to put in the time, and we have lost a lot of great coaches over the years. It's tough to put in the time as the kids, especially as they get older, because then they're more active and involved. And, the 9-month-old, they're active in a different way right now. So, have you and your bride talked about, how long you're going to be able to do this before you need to tap out, or has that not even been a subject?
Yeah, I'd say that's a hot discussion item in our house. Yeah, I'm fortunate to be coaching this year. I'll put it to you that way. I owe her a ton of gratitude and,
right.
Utmost, appreciation. She really recognizes this is a passion of mine, and, what we've built at SA, and, the timing of our family coming now. She has, graciously allowed me to continue, onward with coaching and, everything it entails. It was difficult with one. Now you add an infant into the mix. It's certainly a challenge, and anyone who coaches or is around it knows how much the commitment that it is. I get home from work every day. I run in that door, shower, to practice or to the game, and, come home hours later, and, she's left here holding, the burden of running the house and the kids. So, I really do appreciate her understanding and allowing me to continue to do it.
It really is tough. And I, having been there, done that, and God bless my wife for at times single-handedly helping to raise our 3 boys. But so I understand, and it's a shame from a selfish standpoint that we lose so many young, great coaches, but that's totally understandable, because back in the day, the coaching was for basketball was, October to March.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is year round.
Yeah, it's definitely a much greater commitment. We've been fortunate enough to have, really talented players for the better part of the last 6 or 8 years. So that has helped. We get away with not having as aggressive of an off season as, maybe programs that are building or rebuilding or trying to get to where we've got, where we're at now. But, and we have a lot of multi-sport athletes also. And SA being a smaller school, you need all your high-level athletes to play everything. So that a lot of our athletes are pulled in different directions in the off season. So, we probably could certainly be doing more than we're doing, but that has helped with the kids having other obligations, and so it's definitely a huge commitment, and in order to be successful, you got to put in a lot of time, and it's not just like you said, November through February or March. Last year we finished up, we went all the way till the very end that you could go. We wanted to give the kids some time off. We gave them 6 weeks off, and we were in the middle of May, and we were like, all right, we got to get rolling here again. Everybody else is doing something. So, it's definitely a big time commitment.
Didn't want to start with a hot button topic. I apologize for that, but it at least gives us the chance to give kudos to your wife. So we've been able to.
Well, I appreciate that.
We've
And
been able to.
I'll three-way you in after the season's over to be my help my aid.
I am not only a podcast host, but I'm a marriage monitor, so I can help out there as well. I saw you guys. It has been a very interesting season for South Allegheny. Saw you guys in a regular season loss at Seton LaSalle. Talked to you afterward, and I could sense a little frustration in the fact that you had said, and rightly so, that we're just so close. We're just so close to being where we want us to be. Yes, it was sort of a restart, a reset with some of the players that are no longer at South Allegheny, having graduated and moved on. So this is a new group, and while you had some players back, it was a growing experience, and there were some growing pains, and at that time you were experiencing them, but it seems to have gotten better. You guys finished strong. A unique season.
Yeah, certainly. We experienced in the middle of the season a 5-game losing streak, which is foreign to us. I can't tell you, probably go back 8 or 9 years since the last time we've lost, 5 multiple games in a row, let alone 5 in a row. So, that 2-week plus stretch over Christmas and into the new year was certainly trying times for us. It was frustrating. We've been really blessed the last handful of years to have really experienced players. I think this year's team's the first team in probably 6 or 7 years that I haven't had a 4-year starting guard that has all that. Drew's been starting since he's come back to SA as a sophomore, but I mean, I've had a run of, at least one, sometimes two guys who have 3 and 4 years experience, playing for us. So you kind of take that for granted as a coach, all that experience that's out on the floor. And we didn't have that this year early. And it was certainly trying and frustrating at times, but we knew that the talent was there. It was just getting the guys acclimated and experienced and, growing into the role that we needed each and every one of them to play. And a big factor in that was the injury we had to deal with Jake Ure, who was a senior returning starter from last year's team. He had a fluke accident in open gym right before the regular season started and kind of lingered, and he just wasn't right and tried to go a couple times early in the season and just didn't feel right. And instead of continuing to push it, he thought the best, and we agreed that he just kind of sits down until he's as close to 100% as possible. And that didn't happen until the second week of January. I think that Seton LaSalle game you were at was his first live action.
Right.
When I say live action, I mean, he participated in practice the day before, but I wouldn't call it full go. So certainly he wasn't, the best physical shape he could be in at that moment. And it kind of has taken him up till now to get his legs back. The last probably 2 weeks, we started seeing the production that we thought we would get out of him, because I think he's finally 100%, physically and his conditioning. So we're starting to see what we knew we had in him. And it's really added another layer and element to our team that makes us a lot better.
Finished strong, as I mentioned, 6 of 7 to end the regular season, into the 3A playoffs as the third place team out of Section 3 in Class 3A. Those of us who tried to figure out bracketology, and we really never truly do, put together our guesses before the brackets came out. I know you were incensed by what I had put down there. No, I'm just kidding. And I tried to explain it, and you kind of understood. But the South Allegheny was a team that really, as you had told me, it could be, a 7th seed. It could be an 11th seed. I mean, there was a lot of swing room for the Gladiators. You end up as the 8th seed, and while that did get you a home playoff game for the first round, it also put you in the tough task of having to deal with the number 1 seed in the quarterfinals. When all was said and done, the brackets come out, you see where you are. What was your take?
I think that last game of the regular season, that win at home versus Seton, kind of made it a little difficult for the committee. If we were to lose that game, we probably end up where you thought where you had us projected in the 10 through 12 slot. But that win kind of in the way we finished the second half of the season, I think we finished on a 6-1,
right?
6-1 record. The second half of the section play, kind of made it. Are they closer to the essay that we thought they were at the beginning, or either way, we earned that 8 seed. We didn't have the success we needed to have in the regular season. We finished 3rd in our section, so we understood that we earned that, but we certainly felt at that time, and still feel now, that we're not the 8th best team in AAA. We knew we were playing at we were starting to reach our capabilities and trending in the right direction, certainly. So it was unfortunate to see that if we were able to get past the first round, we were going to run into the number 1 seed Mohawk, which their resume speaks for itself. We just experienced it last night. They're an excellent team, very well coached, got as good of a player in high school basketball that you're going to face. A ton of experience. I don't know how many of those guys are 3- and 4-year starters, but I know they've been at it for a long time. So, we knew at some point, if we were going to defend our championship, we were probably going to have to beat them. Weren't thrilled that was going to have to be in the second round, but we understood that we put ourselves in that spot and we had to own it. And, we had to step up to the challenge, and, our guys responded well last night.
Now, you almost didn't get that opportunity. It was a dogfight in the first round in Glassport against Elwood City. You guys prevail by 2, beating the Gladiator, or beating the Wolverines 52-50. Drew doing what Drew does. Drew Cook, 25 points in that game. Before we talk about the thriller in the quarters, a tough opener, and one that that a lot of coaches probably don't like at the moment, but probably do appreciate once you are beyond that hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I spoke to a little bit of our inexperience earlier. I think that showed on Tuesday in the first round. That was the first playoff experience for a handful of our key contributing role guys. So we certainly didn't play our best. We had an 8-point lead, I think, with a little around a minute or a little bit more to go, and we didn't execute that last minute and a half appropriately, or we shouldn't have been put in that much stress if we do. So we went back and looked at it and learned from it, and hopefully we were in the similar situation last night, and our guys responded and prevailed. So each game that we continue to move on, those guys are gaining experience. I thought everybody looked a lot more comfortable last night. So I hope moving forward, we got those jitters out, and we're ready to continue to move on in the tournament.
Yeah, you lean on Drew, and rightly so, and he has done nothing but produce at the top of the scoring list, not only for the Gladiators but for the entire WPIAL. I mentioned 25 points against the Wolverines, leads the way against Mohawk with 20. Before we talk about him, and of course the finish, tight game throughout. You guys are up 4 after 1. It's a 1-point lead at the half, and just stayed tight throughout. We talked about Jake Hewer. He ends up with 15 points. Elijah Cook, the younger of the Cook brothers, 17 points. So really, beside Drew and his heroics, good, solid contributions throughout.
Yeah, I think that's been the catalyst to our, I believe 8-1 record here in the last 9 games, is that our secondary scoring has increased. Elijah in the last 3 weeks or so has shot the ball really well for us. And then Jake, like we talked about earlier, he's starting to come into his own again. And then last night we got contribution from Adam Jakowski, made a couple threes. Samaj Reason made a couple threes. Fisher, Ali stepped up big for us in a huge defensive assignment going against their second best player. He limited him, throughout the whole game. So, Drew is going to be a constant. I mean, teams spend a ton of time in preparing for him and trying to slow him down. You're not going to stop him. The best you could do is try to control him to the best of your ability. But, he's who he is for a reason, and he's been that for us for a really long time now. So, excuse me, the key to our future success, I believe, is the guys around him and Drew's willingness to get them involved. We spend a lot of time talking about that. Drew is obviously, a proficient scorer, but I think we're the best as a team when we're getting others involved and we're making the other team guard everybody.
Yep.
When there's times where, he takes difficult shots and it makes it easier on the other team. So as of late, Drew has really understood that. And, when we get into this playoff basketball and he understands that the other teams are really keying on him. That, as you advance, the teams you're playing, the competition is better. The coaching is elevated. So teams are coming in with a plan to take him out, and credit to him for showing patience and willingness to get in, trusting his teammates. And then on the back end, his teammates have stepped up, especially last night, in huge moments and huge spots and produced for us. So, if we're able to continue to advance, that's going to be the recipe.
Give a little love out to a former WPIAL Trib HSSN Player of the Week, Bobby Fadden. Huge game, 33 points to lead Mohawk, and he didn't miss by much from throwing that half-court shot down at the end. You guys are down one with the basketball, moving the ball nicely, get a good shot underneath, rolls around and out. Drew is there for the tip-in with about 2-3 seconds left. And I think it was Bobby took the last shot and just missed from half court, 64-63. Just talk about what you were looking for and then what you saw in those final moments.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in the gym knew whose hands the ball was going to be in. We drew up a play for Drew to get open. It kind of broke down and became a scramble situation. He came back and got the ball, and then found Jake, you're cutting behind the defense along the baseline, and made the appropriate play. Jake's guy ran at Drew and allowed Jake to become open, and Drew found him. Didn't finish that. He kind of was contested around the rim and wasn't able to finish, but Drew had heads up play there, followed his pass and just got in the mix around the basket, and the ball bounced right in his hands and he finished the play. And kind of in those moments, it's a weird psychology. Everyone kind of gets out of the way on the Fadden shot where Drew was trailing him, tailing him a little bit, and then he kind of passed him off to Reason, who kind of just allowed him to dribble into a half-court shot's a low percentage shot, but still we would have liked to, and we'll talk about, in practice the next couple of days if we're in that situation again. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where we may foul or anything, but certainly want to don't just allow him to dribble into that.
It's a fine line.
Yeah, it's a very fine line, so and I was looking right at it. From the time it left his hands, it was dead on. So when it hit the back of the rim, I thought it might still fall in, and it bounced out, and then it kind of go into shock a little bit, but it was all good stuff.
Instead of starting this podcast asking about your coaching future, probably should have asked about your blood pressure. The narrow win over Elwood City, then the thriller in the upset of Mohawk. You're a young man, but it's these kind of moments make you old real quick.
Yeah, if you've followed SA basketball, we've been in a lot of these.
Yeah.
And there was a play earlier in the game where we were up by 2, I believe. Yeah, we were up by 2 with like 30 seconds left, had the ball side out of bounds, and we got Drew open across the timeline, and they ran people at him, and he ripped through, and was dribbling to the opposite sideline. And I don't know what happened. He stumbled and lost control of the ball right into Fadden's hands, and he went and got an and one to take the lead. And kind of been, as the SA coach, our program's kind of experienced plays like that for no reason. It's just, and sometimes we've persevered through them and ended up on the right side, and sometimes those were the reasons why we've lost games. So, I've certainly been in a lot of these, and you gotta, you as the coach, you have to do your best to be even keel so your kids don't get too high or too low. But these are really special moments, and I've been fortunate enough, at least the last last year and this year now, to be on the right side of them. And I'm just blessed to coach the kids that we've had here. I mean, they're the reason why we've had all this success, and they've been a really good group of kids and great kids, and I'm just proud of them and all the, through the ups and downs, they bought into the message, and in this group especially. It's been a little bit of a rockier road than it was for us last year, certainly. And, these guys have responded so far. The job's not done. We still have a lot of work to do, but I'm happy after experiencing what we were able to experience last night. Certainly proves to me that they're starting to get it.
Tremendous success this decade, including the championship run a year ago, and as you mentioned, the run to the PIAA finals, and everything we talked about this year about this team, and how the hurdles have been high, and they've stubbed their toe a couple of times, but now they're back into the Final Four, into the semifinals. Is this win over Mohawk, can you see this team now having that swagger, that confidence that all the teams that preceded it, Gladiator teams, have had?
Yeah, I think we were searching for this one. Like I mentioned, in the last game of the regular season versus Seton was a quality win for us.
Sure.
They're a really good team. So that kind of gave us the belief that, maybe we could, if we get this thing right, we could make a run. But when you beat, I saw I believe it was the Tribs rankings that had Mohawk number 1 in the state. So when you're able to get a win like that at this time of the year, in the magnitude of the game that we were in, that has to give everybody some hope and belief, and that we're closer to where we were last year after experiencing that.
Yep, and they've been number 1 in the state rankings for a while now too. So again, big feather in your team's cap. Every coach likes to brag about their section. Some of it may be false bravado, but man, it's legit for Section 3 in Class 3A. If Seton LaSalle, they got beat by 17 against Aliquippa on Friday in a quarterfinal matchup. If the Rebels had somehow found a way, it would be an all Section 3 party in the 3A semifinals. Instead, Aliquippa will take on South Park on one side of the bracket, and then you guys get Shadyside Academy. If folks are surprised by the Gladiators run, how about the Bulldogs, the 4th place team out of your section, with wins over Bishop Canevin and Southmoreland? So you get to see them for a third time.
Yeah, I don't know how many bracketologists had the 8-13 matchup in the semifinals, but we're thrilled to be there. I'm sure as are they. Pay attention from afar. I kind of noticed that they started playing a lot better. Their record certainly isn't indicative of the team they have. They're here for a reason. They're playing on Tuesday against us for a reason. So we can't rest by no means necessary or bank on the fact that we beat them twice earlier in the year. All that means nothing. This is a new season now. They're obviously a different team than when we played them the first 2 times. Actually, the second time we played them, they were without their inside kid, who's probably their best player and impacts the game the most for them. So it's hard. We put a lot emotionally, physically, mentally into winning last night's game.
Sure.
and it's a natural to not to take a step back and go on your heels a little bit, especially now that you're facing a team that you've already beat twice, you're familiar with in your section. But our challenge as a coaching staff the next few days is going to be to get back to that same mindset we walked in North Allegheny with last night. And it's not going to start Tuesday. It has to start tomorrow morning when we practice. And the work that we put in leading up to Mohawk is the reason why we were able to be successful and win. So it's got to be the same approach and the same mindset in order for us to get to the PD.
Yeah, that's a tremendous point because these are teenage kids and human nature. Hey, we just slayed the top dog, the number one team in the state. Now we're playing a team that, we smoked a couple times during the regular season. We're going back to the championship, and that, Shadyside is in the semifinals as well for a reason, because both the Gladiators and the Bulldogs are playing some of their best basketball down the stretch and here into the playoffs. So a challenge for you and your staff. Back to North Allegheny Tuesday, 7:30 for the Gladiators and the Bulldogs. Tony, appreciate your time. I know it's tough, as we talked about early on, especially with the youngins, but appreciate. Congratulations to you, your staff, and most of all to your players for again answering the bell and coming out swinging. 2 heartfelt victories over Elwood City and Mohawk, and into the semifinals. 1 win from returning to the championship. All the best, my friend. Kudos to you, and best of luck.
Thank you, Don. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Tony DiCenzo, head coach of the South Allegheny Gladiators, Final Four bound. They will take on Shadyside Academy Tuesday in a 3A boys semifinal game. Congrats to the defending champs, the Gladiators, up and down the program for surviving a rough regular season and into the Final Four. We also thank our producer, Chris Lackner. I'm Don Rebel. Final week of the district playoffs coming up, semifinals and championships. Fun time of year. Stick it here, keep it here as we continue our coverage on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.